think a lot of boat owners, I've heard it from a lot of boat owners that's the one thing that makes everybody mad is, you know, if you if you just tell the truth, I think
Mm-hmm.
there's not really a problem. The biggest thing is, like you said, they want to secure the job. So guy comes in, he wants to get some work done on his boat. If it's a big job like doing we're talking about fiberglass, doing transoms, doing fuel tanks, whatever, like there is a lot of things that could go bad and you don't know. You're talking about 20-year-old stuff. So we got to
Right.
take all the rigging out of the boat. Well, the riggings are 20 years old. Oh, you got to take the hoses out. Well, the hoses are 20 years old. Like, so now you need new hoses, you might need new rigging, you might need all this extra stuff. So it's like, why don't you just say, okay, here's the estimate. It could be 10 grand, but here's where I think is the problem is education. All you
Mm-hmm.
got to do is tell them we're going to take this apart, this apart, this apart, this apart, this apart, and this could go really bad right here and cost another, it could cost a lot of money. Now
Right.
you can take it down to the guy down the road that's only going to charge you 5 grand, and I'm telling you 10, because if this goes bad, this goes bad, this goes bad, then you're going to have a bad problem, and so it could be this much, and I want you to know that up front.
Right.
And
The
they
the
don't do
the
that. People don't do that.
the nail in the coffin for when you're working with a customer is a surprise.
Yeah.
Nobody, this not when you're talking about money.
No, no, it's not a
I
good
mean, it's
surprise.
one thing to walk in
Yeah.
your house and and have a surprise birthday party, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I got
That's
some
completely
chocolates
different.
over here. But
Whereas versus a surprise of, oh, by the way, the final bill is 5, 10, 20 grand more. Say what?
Yeah. 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 And you never called, like, because I think it comes down to communication. Like, as soon as you start it, you take stuff apart. Like, all you got to do is even a text message or a photograph. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you take everything apart, and as soon as something you get to a spot that's going to add to the bill, take a picture, send a text. Hey, this is this.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to add problems. But remember, we talked about this when we started. Yeah, you might have
Exactly.
spent an extra hour beginning the job to discuss all those things, but I think everybody's going to be much more happier than, like you said, you get, it was going to be 10 grand, and then 2 months down the road it's 15, and you haven't talked to them in a month and a half. Like,
Right.
it's a big surprise.
And that was kind of the one thing that I never understood how people just didn't understand this. When they were doing the contract work, is you could have 15 happy customers, but if you've got even just one that the project went sideways on you, that one
Mm-hmm.
person will counterbalance 15 plus of your positive
Yep.
customers.
Yep.
And you do anything and everything you can to make sure that everybody's on the same page. They may grumble a little bit over the add-ons, but it is what it is. At least there wasn't that surprise.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and when it's all said and done, if they, even though they ended up paying maybe a little bit more, they got what they wanted and they're happy. They're not upset with you, and they're not gonna trash talk you to their slip neighbors.
Let's get back on some
Yeah, I kind
fiberglass
of went off
topics.
a little bit of a tangent here.
We got to get into a business consultation. Let's see here. So, all right. So we're talking about plywood. What do you find is the number one mistake that people make when they're doing working with plywood, fiberglassing over it, that kind of thing? Like, what did you say the number one thing that people do, that how they mess that up?
Lack of patience, which sounds like a kind of a goofy answer, but there's additional steps. So for example, when you get a new piece of plywood, depending on the quality, some plywood is very thirsty, some doesn't really absorb much resin at all. But the,
Mm-hmm.
the the one step, which isn't really talked about all that often, is to pre-coat your plywood, not with just one coat, but you keep coating it with just catalyzed resin, no glass. You coat it every 15 20 minutes until it stops drinking it up. On a
Mm.
good marine grade, you'll probably be able to get by with just a single coat, and you'll start to see the resin just kind of pooling on the surface. The surface is saturated. You get some of your may closer to like construction grade. It's still a good plywood, but it's still but it's not a marine grade.
Yeah.
You roll one coat on, 2 minutes later, I mean, it may have a little bit of gloss to it, but it looks bone dry. It just sucked it right up. So, just kind of that lack of patience of saying, I don't want to spend the time. I'm in a rush. I've got, whatever, an hour, 2 hours to get this done. I'm going to coat it. I'm going to slap this glass down. We're just going to, go balls out, and we're going to get her done.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can come back to bite you. So that's one thing is, folks just aren't, pre-coating adequately, to making sure that the plywood is thoroughly saturated. Because if you don't, what'll happen is you'll lay out your glass, you'll wet out your glass. The plywood will suck the resin right out of the glass. Now you got a dry layup, and that's just no good for anybody. And also too, when I said, the patience, depending on the type of glass that you're working with, it's not like you put resin on it and it's wet out or it's saturated. I mean, sometimes it takes a little bit, especially with these heavier weave materials like 1708, 1808. You can roll out your resin, let it sit there, and it doesn't really soak in, but it does kind of work its way in, through the fibers. But let it kind of soak in, come back and coat it again. It's kind of a bit of a fine line to walk between making sure that you're using enough resin, and there's a misconception that you can use too much. I've talked about this. Resin-rich layups. However, if you do one additional step, there's really no such thing as a resin-rich layup. I mean, it's better to kind of dogpile it on, let the glass soak up. I mean, because the glass can only hold so much. Anything that it can hold, it can get worked back out either through a fin roller or through a plastic spatula, whatever. It's better to have it and not need it than to try and kind of walk that line of try and get it the perfect ratio. Well, it's far too easy for it to kind of go sideways on you, and you won't even see it.
That's probably, I would say, patience is probably the number one problem with any fiberglassing project that you have. That I mean, with me personally, I would probably have the same thing. And I'm fairly patient for the most part. I do like to get stuff done though. So I fall in that same camp of like, yeah, let's get it done kind of thing. But yeah, patience is probably, because a lot of fiberglass, in my experience, like I don't have anywhere near the experience that you have. We'll do the, miscellaneous projects and that kind of thing. But preparation is it. So I can definitely see. Do you do fiberglassing? Like, do you use like fiberglassing outside of like boating, like making different stuff for things like as a skill,
So, two things that kind of came to mind on that, non-boat related things that involve fiberglassing. And one is, it's been near and dear to my heart. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but I want to. But the first one is hot tubs. Brand new hot tubs are ridiculously expensive, but used ones you can pick up on Facebook Market for almost nothing. And a lot of times it's just something small, like, there's a little crack here or a chip or the gel coat is fading or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Hot tubs are worse than cars as far as holding their value.
I had a friend on hot tubs, did same thing, same thought. Like she did, woodworking projects, stuff like that, but gonna get a hot tub. So her and her buddy, they go get this hot tub and they put it in the back of a truck and they flip it up like this and put it in the back of the truck and then drive it. I don't know how far they drove it, down all kinds of roads, bumping around it. When they got it where they're going, the whole thing, like just thousands of cracks in the whole thing because it was sideways like this, bouncing up and down, like jiggling. All that glass just cracked all over. They went in there with some silicone on all the lines. Like, funniest thing I've ever seen. But yeah, you're right. I that's a really good idea.
I've wanted one because I've had back issues for many years, and every winter I'm like, I talk to my girls. I'm like, you know what I'd like right now? Hot tub. If I could do anything right now, I would sit in a hot tub for like an hour. But I don't know. They're expensive, and I haven't done it, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be a very economical way for me to, talk my wife into let me do it. I'm like, I picked it up for $100. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
put some materials into it, and before you know it, boom, we got a brand new hot tub. It'd be sweet. But there's that one, and then the other idea, or the other thing that you can do, take a lot of fiberglass work towards, and it's something that I work with a lot of people with right now, is on campers. A lot of people are building their own campers, these
Yeah,
little
yeah,
teardrop campers, or restoring some of the older ones.
yeah.
Not so much the ones that are, more like a sheet metal siding, but there are a lot of campers that were glass over wood, very thin plywood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but still, I mean, so those are the two things that I've that I've worked with people the most on, outside of directly working on boats.
No, well, I mean, it is. Fiberglassing is definitely a skill that could transfer over for people that like to do projects, for sure,
Hmm.
100%. Like hot tub to camper to something on the car, the truck, whatever. That's a really good skill. Now,
So some just as a quick little funny story here. So my daughter, pickleball is a thing, right? I mean, it's big down in Florida.
yeah, yeah,
I think it's big pretty much
yeah.
everywhere.
There's a lot of people into pickleball. I'm not on the camp yet. I mean, I'm sure if I played
Sure.
it, I would be. I like athletic stuff. I like water sports, golf. Like I like activity. I'm an outside kind of guy. I'm
Yeah.
so I'm sure if I did pickleball, I'd like it. So,
So,
but
but my daughter absolutely hates pickleball.
really, that's
Absolutely hates it.
funny.
So what did I do for a bit of a joke for Christmas? I mean, I wouldn't have bought this, but I made her a carbon fiber pickleball paddle. She still hasn't used it. It looks beautiful, but
That's too funny.
I mean, to buy a paddle like that, it's like $300. I mean, I built it
Really?
for, yeah, I built it for
Wow, I
what,
didn't
maybe
realize it was that intense.
$10 in material.
Hey there, sorry to take you away from the video, but real quick, did you know that on average a boat owner will spend between $1,000 and $5,000 a year just on servicing their engine? And you could actually pocket and save a lot of that money if you would just do the service yourself. It might seem like a daunting task, but I guarantee you virtually everyone can do it with our guidance and the Boaters program. This is just one skill that you could learn inside the program, because we have hundreds of other videos teaching you all kinds of boating skills, as well as a weekly live stream where we have questions and answers with me, as well as a chat feature where you can send videos and pictures, ask all kinds of questions, or look for some advice or some guidance on a project that you're doing on your boat. And we've made it super easy because you can start and stop the program at any time. So you could actually join, do a few videos, learn a few skills, and then when you're not using your boat, like say you have an off season, you can stop using the program, pause your membership, and then when you need to use it again, you can just start the membership back up and have instant access to all the content. You can join the program by hitting the first link in the description, clicking join, or visiting bornagainboating.com. Now back to the video.